Hey guys, what's up? JOC back here again, and the NFL Draft is coming up sooner than we know. And today, I'll be looking at all the Vikings positions and list them on a scale of 5 on how high of a need. And before we get into the video, if this video gets 20 likes, I'll do a full-scale, full-researched Vikings mock draft. So if you're into that, I need you to see the support down there. And it'll be a lot of research for me. You do know you can just copy someone's article and say you did it and came up with it yourself. Your audience is too stupid to know the difference anyways. So if you guys want that, make sure to show me your support. Let's get to the video.
12 seconds to go in the game. Niners lead by 4. He'll fire to the right. 60,000.
So starting off, we'll start off from the offense, then let's go to the defense, and if there's anybody in special teams, we'll do that as well. So let's start off with the most important position on the football field, quarterback. So the Vikings just got themselves locked in 3 years. Kirk Cousins, no way we should need one right away. Trevor Siemian is the veteran backup, and we have the experimental QB3 in Kyle Sloter. So we should have no reason to get a quarterback, so I have that at 0. The only reason I think the Vikings would get a quarterback if one really slides down, but I don't see that at all. Next, wide receiver. The Vikings sitting with Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 1B. And now with the addition of Kendall Wright, the Vikings also have Laquan Treadwell. We have 4 receivers that are solid right off the bat. Laquan Treadwell, a lot of Vikings fans might say just needs to be replaced, but I think he's a lot better than what his stats have shown. Stacy Coley, being a very solid wide receiver 5, he showed up a lot in preseason last year, and I'm fine with him being there. And Caleb Jones is another very solid depth body that could make the practice squad. So I have this at a 1 out of 5. Maybe a returner if they think Coley failed in training camp last year, but I don't think there's a need at all. Maybe a late round if someone slides down. Why not? But that'd be the only scenario. Now, running back / fullback. So let's look at the running backs on the Vikings roster. Dalvin Cook, obviously number 1. Latavius Murray, number 2. That could end up being one of the best 1-2 punches in the league. But behind that, right, as far as running backs, we only have Mac Brown, who is a random Redskin that we never saw play. And fullback is C.J. Ham. He's very solid there, so no reason to get a fullback. And C.J. Ham can also be an emergency running back 3. But since this is such a good, solid running back class, much like last year, I have this at a 2, because I would love the Vikings to get a mid-round back, because Latavius Murray probably only has 1 or 2 more years in Minnesota, because he's too expensive to be a number 2 running back. So unless we can restructure him, he's the long-term backup for Dalvin Cook, long-term as in maybe 3 to 5 years, then all of a sudden we don't need one. But if we think Latavius will be gone in a year or 2, then I would love a mid-round back, get us a guy that the similar skill set as Jerick McKinnon, or maybe a good bowling ball type short yardage guy. Either of those would be a very good backup behind Dalvin Cook, and it'd be very good in a very deep running back class to get that stockpiled on now. Next, tight end. We have Kyle Rudolph. We have David Morgan, the blocking tight end, and we have Blake Bell. No reason to get a tight end. I have this at 1, and it's only if one slips in the where we are getting very good value. Next, the all-dreaded offensive line. Starting off at the offensive tackle position, we have Riley Reef and Rashad Hill and some nobody, Joseph Digogat. On the right tackle, we have Mike Remmers, assuming that he stays at tackle, Avante Collins, and Norton Storm. So, do we need a tackle? Absolutely. 3. I have this at a 3 out of 5, and this depends on Remmers. If Remmers slides into guard, all of a sudden I could see the offensive tackle being like a 4 or even 5, because I like Rashad Hill, but I don't think he's good enough to be a starter, and was really exposed in Philly and against New Orleans in the playoffs. So I like Rashad Hill. I think he's a solid backup, but I don't want him to be starting, so we need a starting caliber tackle. If Remmers slides into guard, we absolutely need to draft a tackle high in the draft, because we can't do anything more in free agency as far as getting a good enough tackle. Next, guard. We have left guard Nick Easton, Josh Andrews, right guard Tom Compton, Danny Isidora, and Cedric Lang, again kind of a nobody. Now the notable ones here, of course, Nick Easton's very solid. Tom Compton is new. We don't really know how good he is. Maybe good enough to start, but I would rather him not. Danny Isidora, very solid, filling in at guard when he did last year. He looked a little iffy in pass protection, but was very good, especially for a rookie, at run blocking. Made some really big holes in the run game last year. And if he makes another big stride, maybe we don't need a guard as much if we're fine with Nick Easton and Danny Isidora being our 2 starting guards. But regardless, we're going to need more depth. I have offensive guard at a 4. If Mike Remmer slides into guard, this slides down quite a bit because all of a sudden we have 3 solid guards. But I would still like to get a little bit better at left guard instead of Nick Easton. So I think we go with the guard regardless. I would love to get a interior lineman in the first round. Center, we have the rookie from last year, Pat Elflein, who was very good, and then a kind of a nobody, Edison Cornelius at number 2, but the real number 2 center is Nick Easton, as he was our center a couple years ago, and he can play all 3 interior line positions. So I have a center at a 2 just for depth. Hopefully we can get a true number 2 center behind Pat Elflein. Late round center would be good. Moving on to Mike Zimmer's favorite side of the ball, defense. We're just going to start off at, some people would say, the strength of the Vikings, the defensive end position. Now, looking at this, Danielle Hunter, B-Rob, Afidi Adiabu, did I say his name right? Hopefully. Everson Griffin, Stephen Weatherly, and Tashawn Bauer. Now, 3 very solid defensive ends. B-Rob definitely getting long in the tooth. Danielle Hunter, a little underachieving last year, but Everson Griffin was phenomenal. Stephen Weatherly filled in okay, and I like the Tashawn Bauer being the experimental defensive end that just kind of chill and be a good depth guy for now. Maybe next year he could fill into the rotation a bit more. So defensive end I have at a 1, and only if one good one slips. Moving into the tier defensive line, at defensive tackle, we have Linval Joseph and a random Dylan Bradley. A defensive tackle, Sheldon Richardson, Jaleel Johnson, and Kashad Lyons. Again, kind of nobody in the last slot. So, 3 solid guys for now. Sheldon Richardson's on a 1-year deal. Linval Joseph is very, very good. And I like Jaleel Johnson quite a bit. But going into next year, the very good chance that Sheldon Richardson leaves in the Vikings with Linval Joseph, and then Jaleel Johnson is the only real capable guy there. And we showed how much we need defensive tackle depth. I have defensive tackle 4 out of 5. For now, depth, but later on we might need a starter. Jaleel Johnson, I think, is good enough to be a starter, but we'll have to see what the coaches think. And if we draft one high, they probably aren't super high on Jaleel, but I think he's very solid. At linebacker, the Vikings, all 3 linebacker positions, I think they're similar enough to group them all into one. We have Anthony Barr, Eric Wilson, and Antoine Williams. Middle linebacker, Eric Kendricks, Kentrell Brothers. Other outside linebacker, Ben Gedeon, and Rashad Clef. Very solid. The 3 linebackers is kind of overrated. You aren't in a base 4-3 very often. You're in the nickel, so you only have 2 linebackers on the field the majority of the time in today's NFL. And Kendricks and Barr are phenomenal, one of the better linebacker tandems in the NFL. I like Eric Wilson and Kentrell Brothers as backup linebackers. I have linebackers at a 1 out of 5, only for depth. The only reason this could shoot up quite a bit if the Vikings foresee having trouble re-signing one of those starters. If Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks are guys that they think they might have to move, it would be a trade or just not be able to re-sign them, all of a sudden the Vikings will be in need of a linebacker. So this could easily jet up very high. I think the Vikings will prioritize the linebackers because Mike Zimmer's going to love them, as he loves his defense. So I don't think there's any reason why those would be the first guys out. So I think 1 and just for depth for now. Next, cornerback. We have, of course, the best corner in the league, Xavier Rhodes, and Mackenzie Alexander, Jack Toko. On the other side, we have very good Trey Waynes, Horace Richardson, and Marcus Sherrills. Now, you know what you're saying? That half those names, I have no idea who they are, and that's really telling. One guy is not on this list, but I think he will, but it really is a big change on this list, is Terrence Newman. I think Terrence Newman is a very solid number 4 corner, and I do think the Vikings might take their time with Terrence Newman, so he might just be an emergency option. I think the Vikings will look in the draft for that number 4 cornerback instead, as Terrence was exposed a few times last year, and this year will be even worse. So I like Trey Waynes, I like Xavier Rhodes, and I like Mackenzie Alexander for our top 3 corners. That's very good. But then all of a sudden, you're looking at Marcus Sherrills or Jack Toko as the other 2 spots. So I think we need a corner. I have it at a 3 out of 5. If we get Newman before the draft, I have it at a 2 because Newman is good enough to be a number 4. Safety. Anderson Deo, Jaron Kearse, Harrison Smith, and Anthony Harris. All 4 names easily recognizable. Harrison Smith, best safety in the league. Anderson Deo, a very good number 2. And, well, number 2 as far as talent on the team and as a starting safety. Jaron Kearse was only a 7th round pick a few years ago, but definitely shines on special teams. And Anthony Harris fills in very good for Anderson Deo when we need him. So I have safety at a 0. I don't think we have any need there whatsoever. So now the specialists. Do we need anybody? A returner is the only thing we need. Kick returner is a very interesting position because the NFL has been phasing that out of existence for the last couple of years. And when you're the Vikings with such a good defense, you aren't going to have many kickoffs to begin with anyways. You aren't expecting to give up many points, so you won't have many kickoffs to get the ball back to even have a chance for a return. And plus, those returns, 95% of the time, we're going to be touchbacks regardless. So having Marcus Sherrills just be the guy to be at back there just in case to catch the ball and take a knee for a touchback, who cares? But punt returner, I would want an improvement. I know a lot of Vikings fans love Marcus Sherrills. He's a good guy. He's from Minnesota, or at least went to college there. But I want some more speed. I want some more dynamic returning skills at the punt returner position. Stacy Coley might be able to be that guy if the Vikings don't think he is, or if a better guy slips, why not take him? As far as a punter, Ryan Quigley's here now. Maybe the Vikings may be going to free agency for another one, but I think Quigley is fine. I don't think we should get one in free agency. Kai Forbath, very up and down last year. I do think the Vikings will bring a kicker in camp, but I don't think they'll have to draft one. He was good enough just to take a camp body. Maybe the guy from MSU might be able to come in and compete in camp for the kicker position, but I think Kai Forbath will probably most likely be our kicker come next year. But there we have it. Again, get this video to 20 likes and I'll do a full mock draft. Those are my rankings. Again, I'll go through them very quickly. Quarterback 0, wide receiver 1, running back / fullback 2, tight end 1, tackle 3, guard 4, center 2, defensive end 1, defensive tackle 4, linebacker 1, cornerback 2 or 3 depending with Newman, safety 0, and get us a returner, please. So there we have it. If you want to give me your little list in the comment section down below, tell me who you think's the most necessary position the Vikings draft, and do you think the Vikings are in a position where we can reach if we want to? If, well, this guy's only mid-second round talent, but hey, if we really want this position, why not? We're that close to the Super Bowl, we can have the luxury to reach. I think we'd still just trade back in that scenario. But tell me in the comment section down below, and see you guys in the next Vikings video. See you guys then.